Okay, so we have our perspective grid set up here. We know where our line of sight is and our eye level, our vanishing point. We know where our station point is just off the screen down here at the bottom. And we have our measuring point. I'm gonna zoom back out. Measuring points over here. So this is 45 degrees and our 90 degrees. And what we did is we started by figuring out the front of where our checkerboard is. And there's actually a term that I didn't give you guys last time, and we'll need to know this term in the future as well. But this is the line where we could measure precisely what we wanted each of these to be, right? Some of you guys did, I think I did 3/4 of an inch, or this one I did 2 centimeters, but I measured out 2 centimeters for each checkerboard row or column. I guess these are columns. Anyway, so I've got that set up. This line here where we can actually measure, this is called our ground measuring line. And you don't need to write this on your drawing, but you need to know it. And what comes into play here is right at this plane. Like if you imagine there was a piece of glass just standing here on this plane that was perfectly vertical. Right here, we know what everything is physically. I know, like I could take this and turn it up and it would still be like 2 centimeters. I can measure things from this point because this is where I've determined. So if I said this is a foot and I wanted to draw somebody that was 6 feet tall, I could take this unit of measurement, make 6 of them, and then my person would be 6 feet tall. And then I could use that and I could go back into perspective and figure out what that same 6 foot tall person looked like anywhere else inside of my world that I've created. But this line becomes kind of my yardstick for everything else. Does that make sense? And so you'll see more of that. We're gonna do a Rubik's Cube next. And so we're gonna add some verticality to our measuring, right? Hopefully your brain's saying, ooh, how would I take this logic and extend it up, right? But anyway, this line's called the ground measuring line. So another acronym for you, the GML, the ground measuring line. We can use this line to measure everything else in this image. Okay, you all have that set up, right? That's where we ended up. And then we started extending our orthogonal lines from our ground measuring lines to the back, right? Is that where we left? Okay, so the next thing that we need to do, and my ruler's just long enough, is I'm gonna use my measuring line right here. And instead of, like I could come here and I could figure out each cube individually if I wanted to. How fun does that sound? So I could use my measuring line here to find the back of this cube right here. And then I could draw in that one. And then I could do the same thing. I could come over and figure out where this one is. And then I could come over here and figure out where this one is. And we could do these one at a time, and they look perfect, right? Lines up every time. But that's not what I did. To save me time, I just went to the far corner right here. And this tells me what a 45-degree angle looks like in this space. And then I just extend my line across. And each time this line intersects one of these orthogonal lines, that tells you where the next row is going to be. And each line will be perfectly the exact right proportion. They'll each get smaller every time, right? That's the logic of perspective. As something moves further away, it appears smaller. So this square is bigger than this square, is bigger than this square, is bigger than this square, and this square, and this square, and this square, right? It should get smaller each time. The trick here, and I had a bad lighting situation last time. I've changed it, so now I have a light pointing straight down, but I was getting this weird shadow that was making it hard for me to see exactly where my points were. But now that the light's straight from above, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my ruler down to that line, and then I'm gonna take a minute and make sure it's parallel. Because remember, in 1-point perspective, horizontal lines stay horizontal, and we don't want them to get twisted because then it'll feel like it's kind of warped. Yeah.
So like ensure that it stays horizontal. Could you just do like another 45-degree line so you have 2 points to work from?
That is such a good idea. You absolutely could. Should we do that? So watch this. So I didn't put in 2 measuring points, but now we will. So I'm going to line this up. Then I'm going to take my ruler and extend. So now I have a measuring line on this side as well. Let's see what that does. And I'll go to this corner instead. Did you just figure that out, or have you seen someone do that before?
I just figured it out.
Nice. So anyway, now I have a line here, and you can see when I had that shadow in there, I didn't get my line perfect on this one, and I could already tell it was off. So I would probably go back in and redo this. The only one where you won't have the 2 lines is the middle right there. But look at that. There's a mark here, mark here, mark here. Not quite right there. But again, if we come down, just make sure that this is as parallel as we can. And I'm missing a line there, that's why. I didn't put in my middle line. I'm gonna put in this line first. And then I'll come back in and put in this line. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm as parallel as I possibly can be. If we had drafting tables and stuff, you could get out a T-square and like line it up with the edge of your page, and you could get perfectly horizontal and vertical lines mechanically. We have to do it just the best we can. So here's what we're gonna do for the rest of the day though. We're going to finish getting in our marks, and all of these marks should be fairly light at this point. But then we want to actually turn this into a drawing of a checkerboard. And so you're going to come back over the top and you're going to erase out some of the measuring lines and stuff. And we're going to draw this. You might even shade in the squares. So it's a checkerboard. And then the other thing we want to do is this is a checkerboard in 2-dimensional space. And since we're doing, it's in 3D, but right now it's a 2-dimensional checkerboard. It only exists on one plane. We want to add a little bit of weight to it. And so I'm going to come down and add a centimeter below. And kind of make it look like it was built out of slabs in Minecraft. So this is going to be my front plane. You'll see what happens here. So, and then I'll take my triangle here and make sure I get these all perfectly vertical. I think I'm going to use the bottom of my page should be lined up with my horizon line because I measured it very carefully. So I can add kind of the front box. If anyone's feeling particularly bold, they could draw some checkerboard or checker pieces on here or something. Oh, I was off. Yeah, when you get a little shadow, it's amazing what the stupidest, teeniest little shadow can do to make things hard to see. So, and then I'll drop all of these. And this was completely on accident, but I lined up one of my orthogonal lines right on the line of sight. Okay, so now I have kind of a three-dimensional looking checkerboard, right? But I haven't really thought much through about the line quality anywhere, or like I've just been really drawing lines, and rulers tend to kill line quality. You can still use your ruler, but like this corner right here, this leading corner, this is going to be the closest to my eyes out of everything in this perspective, right? Because this is going down away from me, so the bottom line's a little further away, and then everything else is going this way. So I'm going to come back in, and this front corner, I'm going to really hit this pretty bold. And I'm going to be really precise now. But I'm thinking about line weight. I'm thinking about how the line adds to the story. And kind of pop that in a little bolder so it comes forward. You see how it pops forward now? And I might do that even on the bottom one a little bit. And then this is where your kneaded eraser comes into play too. And on some of these shorter ones where I can actually have quite a bit of control, I probably won't even use my triangle. I'll just freehand it. Okay. And then for these receding orthogonal lines, I might come in and then kind of hit it heavy at the beginning, but then try to lighten up near the back and see if I can get that line to fade as it goes back a little bit to help add to that illusion of three-dimensionality. Okay. But for today, that's what we're going to do, is try to take this grid we've made and turn it into a nice drawing. And we'll start to come back in with our kneaded eraser. I do have, there's a drawer full of them over here. There's these little kind of mechanical erasers. So if you need something a little bit precise to get in and remove something that you need to clean up. We want to clean these drawings up. I don't think you need to entirely get rid of like the measuring marks are kind of nice. They're helpful to kind of see the process. But we're definitely going to knock them back so that we have a drawing that's a priority over the perspective, if that makes sense.